Let's talk about baking basics. Full disclosure, in case you're new here, I am not a professional. I have no formal training or education in any sort of baking or culinary expertise. The first most important rule, in my opinion, to set yourself up for success is to have a clean and organized kitchen. Clean as you go so things do not get overwhelming. Be prepared. Read your recipe first. Know what you're doing and have all of your prep work done. Once the prep work is out of the way, everything else feels so much less overwhelming when you just put things together and make it. Wooden utensils can really absorb odors. It's a good habit to get into every few weeks to soak them in boiling water for a few minutes. When you're measuring flour, I do this all the time, but it's wrong, okay? It's not the proper way to measure flour. You should spoon the flour into your measuring cup. Once your measuring cup looks like this, you should use a knife and level it off. Like so. Dry ingredients are almost always better when they are sifted. Sifting your ingredients will give you a higher success rate. There's a big difference between a cup of brown sugar, a cup of lightly packed, and a cup of tightly packed brown sugar. Eggs are almost always better at room temperature unless the recipe specifies otherwise. Make sure you're using room temperature butter and cream cheese unless the recipe specifies otherwise. If you need chilled or cold butter, it is easier if you pop that into the freezer and use your grater to grate that butter. Butter and sugar and eggs, that should be creamed well together. Other ingredients, most often it's best not to overmix them. Before putting a cake into the oven, bang your pan a couple of times to get the air bubbles out. If you don't have a piping bag, use a Ziploc bag in the same fashion. Snip the tip. When filling that piping bag or Ziploc bag, place into a drinking glass and open up to make the process easier. Ice cream scoops work well for cupcakes and muffins. It's easier to ensure you're going to have the same equal proportioned sizes. Offset spatulas are one of the best tools for icing cakes or melted chocolate on top of things. Warm them up with hot water first and quickly dry them off before you use them. When you're cutting cookies, cakes, bars, things of these natures, warm your knife up first with very hot water. This is a big one. Check your expiration dates, especially if you don't bake often, and especially on baking powder and baking soda. Expiration dates do matter, and it will lessen the effect, especially of these two items. Chilling your bowl and beaters will give you a higher level of success for making that whipping cream. Silicone baking mats and parchment paper work very well, and I do find it's much more beneficial than using non-stick spray. Dredge berries, fruit, raisins, or even chocolate chips in flour before adding to your mixture to ensure that they evenly distribute throughout the batter instead of sinking to the bottom. Don't overbake your cookies. When you see a little bit of brown forming around the base of the cookies, take them out, leave them on the cookie sheet. They will continue to bake there. Chilling your cookie dough first is also very beneficial. If you like to bake often, and if it's something you will plan to do often, it is worth your while to invest in high quality baking tools. I also strongly approve high quality ingredients. That being said, I always use artificial vanilla extract from time to time. I do like the real thing, and I even make my own homemade. However, there's a time and a place to cut costs and save money. And sometimes it is really worth it to upgrade and use the vanilla bean paste. It makes all the difference. If you're not new here and you've been following for a long time, you know that I don't do a lot of the things that I've just showed you to do. However, I have been baking for a long time. I know better. I don't always choose to do better. When you're learning or just beginning in baking, or if there's something you're struggling with, these basics will help you. Most importantly, enjoy your time in the kitchen. Don't be intimidated. Don't be nervous. Don't be afraid to try new things. Enjoy the experience. And when it comes to the good things, measure with your heart.